Hello again everybody and welcome to Test Flight in the Focke-Wulf 190. And I'm just going to jump straight into this series. If you want to see like a quick introduction and look at what all comes with the module, check out the first look Focke-Wulf 190 video I did a while back. It's on the channel as well, and I believe a link will be in the video description. And that'll give you a brief overview and give you a taste of what I'm going to be exploring here. Except the difference is that in this Test Flight series, I'm going to be learning a lot of the systems from scratch and really delving into not only the procedure step by step of how you use the systems, but also seek to understand why they work the way that they do and just verify that all the things that I've gleaned from reading the manual and reading other documents work the way that I think they do in DCS. So it should be a lot of fun. I know I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to try in this series, since it's such a simple aircraft. World War II German aircraft are built around automation and just being as user-friendly for the pilot as possible, and I think that's really going to show through. And what I'm going to do is keep this to one sortie. I'm just going to take the aircraft up, check out all the systems that I want to check out, land it, shut it down, and I think that's all that I'm really going to want to see on the 190. And there's just so much more to get into in DCS. I'm going to try to keep this one short. And I have a mission already set up, so I'm just going to fly a very simple mission. I'll go to the mission planner and show you what we're going to be doing here. But I have my flight. It's a flight of two Focke-Wulf 190s taking off from Krasnodar, flying out to the range terrain that I have set up. And I also have a couple of P-51s orbiting out there, acting as drone aircraft. I'm going to check out the gun sight and employ the gun a little bit on them, just essentially waiting for fuel to drain. Because what I want to do also on this series is seek to better understand how the fuel system works. I think I have a good grasp on it from the manual and other documents, but I just want to see that in action. And also, specifically amongst the other systems, I really want to see the radio in action and see if it works the way that I think it does. And just to show what loadout I'm going to take up, I have a full load of internal fuel, and I also have a 300-liter centerline drop tank installed. So we'll play around with that. And also on my radio presets, I have 4 channels on the FUG-16 radio. We'll be exploring this. I have channel 1 and 2 set to 38.4 megahertz. That's my flight's frequency. I have channel 3 set to 38.6. That's the air traffic control frequency at Krasnodar. And if I understand the way that the AFN2 homing system works on the radio, I'm going to be able to get navigation guidance and aid to Krasnodar when the ATC is transmitting on 38.6. So I'm curious to see how that works. I'm not sure if any of this is going to work, frankly. My understanding is that channel 1 is transmit, channel 2 is receive, channel 3 is what you would use to communicate with ATC on, channel 4 is what you would use to communicate with your, kind of like a, not an AWACS, but AWACS equivalent for World War II. It was called the Luft something. It was like the German command and control apparatus for fighter aircraft at the time. And that's the channel you would use to communicate on. My understanding of the proper use of this radio system is vague. I think I know how it works, but we'll find out as we get going. That's the entire point of this series. And this series, incidentally, is geared more towards new players. If you're watching this and saying, well, I already know all that, it's not really geared around you, although feel free to stick around. And, if you watch my other videos, you might enjoy some of the things that I get into and some of my insights, such as they are, into the use of the aircraft, but it's more for new players who just aren't sure where to start. And I'm going to do this starting from the beginning because I like to take my times and get things right and understand what I'm doing as we go. And hopefully you can learn some from my mistakes so that when you take this on yourself, you won't have to learn everything from scratch on your own. That's my intent, at least. So the best thing I can do right now is go ahead and get this thing onto the ground and see about getting her into the air, so I'll see you in just a second. And here we are on the ramp at Krasnodar. I've got my wingman out there to the right, and I'm going to pull up the checklist where I have procedures digitized from the DCS manual that comes with the Focke-Wulf 190, and here for reference. So I'll have this up pretty much constantly throughout at least the procedures portion of this. I'll hide it, obviously, when I'm doing some more involved stuff, taking off, landing, and just flying around. But it'll be there for my reference and also for yours if you're following along. So, well, why don't we just go ahead and start things off. So, pre-flight checks and engine start. as soon as you enter the cockpit, choose the best seating position, and it can be adjusted by using right shift plus right shirt plus KP8. Is that right? Right shirt? That's a term I am completely unfamiliar with, but I'll skip that for now. I've got a good seating position. I can move around with track IR to get any viewing angle that I like, and I like this position just fine, so I'll leave that. Okay, check if the rudder has full, free, and correct movement, and that the center rudder pedal position corresponds to the central rudder position. Okay, so let me... Oh, neat. I hope those sound effects come through. That's very cool. Okay, so... Okay, yep, corresponds to the correct inputs, and it looks centered to me, so I'll take that. Okay, set altimeter to QFE for the takeoff airfield. I'll wait until I get power on the aircraft. I don't think... Well, does this function? No, it does not function without power. I'll set it to QFE so that I have the meter reading at 0 for the field altitude. Once I get power on, that instrument starts to work. Okay, turn on the oxygen system sideway valve on the right lower panel. Okay, and this is one thing I love about German aircraft, how everything is kind of color-coded. I can tell the oxygen instruments because they're in blue. That's kind of neat. Okay, there's the handle. I'm just going to... Okay, I can see that's got to be pressure, right? Kilograms per square centimeter. Okay, turn it on. Okay, good pressure. And I've got... Okay, there'll be like a flow valve that I can see opening and closing as I breathe in and out. Or as I simulated breathe in and out. Okay, so that's good. And on the left side panel, the push button landing gear off. Green button must be switched on, otherwise the gear will retract upon powering up the aircraft's electrical system. Okay, left side, I've got my gear controls right here. I've got... Okay, I can't move the throttle just yet, okay. Aus and ein. Aus is gear down, and that is exactly what it's talking about, okay. Otherwise, the gear will retract upon powering up the electrical system. Are the gear knots hydraulically controlled? Or are they... No, there's no, like, electrical motor, is it? Or is it? It's got a... Okay, I might have just learned something here. I had assumed that the gear were lowered and... raised and lowered hydraulically? I can't tell if that's like a push-pull cylinder type or not, but... The reason I puzzle over that is because it wouldn't necessarily cause them to retract when power is applied, electrical power is applied. I was expecting them to be active when hydraulic power is applied, and that would usually mean once the engine is running and the hydraulic pumps are running, then you would have to worry about retracting them. But the warning there is sound. I do want to verify that that is down, although I'll verify that at some point, whether or not it's hydraulically actuated up and down, or if it's like an electrical type motor. I would be very, very surprised if it was anything but hydraulically raised and lowered. Okay, now turn on all circuit breakers on forward circuit breaker panel. And that's going to be down here on the right. And incidentally, my experience level with the aircraft right now, I've read the manual cover to cover a couple of times. And as far as flying, you've seen all the flying that I've done was done a long time ago in that first look video that I did. I flew it around enough to get a good handle on it and to be somewhat familiar with where everything is and how everything works, but not the system's operation. I did take it out and take off and land in it earlier just to prove to myself that I could do it. I don't have any kind of landing assist or rudder assist on, and I didn't want to go through all this and then figure out that I can't take off and land, because it is hard to do, and hopefully I don't botch it, because I don't want this to be another one of those like epic fail, landing failure videos that you always see. Nothing wrong with that if that's what you're into, but that's not the sort of thing that I want to do. Okay, but anyway, circuit breaker is on forward circuit breaker panel, so I need to, flip up the panel. Now I have access to the breakers. Okay, flaps, trimmer, artificial horizon. And I think these are just going to go all the way down just in sequence. Okay, so there are my radios, instrument lights, if I can hold still, generator, battery. Okay, it goes in opposite order. I get the generator, then the battery last, which I guess kind of makes sense. Well, not really, but I'll take its word for it. Normally I would think battery would go on first and then then you would start to power up systems so you don't have that sudden transient suddenly pulling from the battery. But okay, that looks good. Okay, I can hear some stuff in the background. This is one thing that I dislike, is that it seems like no matter what the module is, the lights automatically start on lately for some reason. I like the lighting effect. I just like turning them on myself. So I always just, first thing I always do is just turn the lights off. Okay, check fuel in both tanks with fuel selector gauge to the right, the left. Okay, my tank gauge is right here, expressed in liters, Vorn and Hinton, so I've got a forward and aft tank. So right now I'm reading the forward tank. I've got, okay, 2 scales. The bottom scale is forward, top scale is aft, and I'm reading, okay, a full forward tank. Okay, center position is nothing. Hinton position, aft tank, full aft tank. And I also have a drop tank on, and I'm not really going to get indication specifically off the drop tank. I'll just have to wait until the aft tank starts to go down. It goes below like 245 or something. I'll get to that part in the manual. And the fuel system is something I really want to understand a lot better than I do now. I think I've got it just based on the reading, but I want to see that in action. So we'll get back to the fuel stuff here in a little bit. Okay, ignition, magneto switch selector to M1 plus M2 position. Okay, magneto switch is down here. Okay, so I want the M1 plus M2. Set, got it. MBG, emergency mode handle, in automatic mode, I check that it's pushed in. Okay, that's my, okay, this handle right here, it is pushed in. Okay, got it. And my understanding is that what this does is removes some of the automatic features that are built into the engine control system and gives you a lot more kind of manual control, or doesn't necessarily give you more manual control, but it disengages some of the automatic functions. If, for example, you did have some kind of a malfunction in the automatic system, you could isolate it using that pull lever. My understanding, at least. Okay, fuel tank selector lever in the off, open, full up position. Okay, that's going to be this lever. It is in the ZU position. Okay, hinterer, vorderer. Okay, so that's like forward and aft pump. I want the off, EUF. That's the open, full up position. And I think that's where it stays, if I understand things correctly. Okay. Okay, switch on fuel pumps with additional circuit breaker panel. So I have this panel that has navigation lights, fuel pumps. I need to rely on the German a lot more. Okay, Vorn, Hinton, Sonder, forward, aft. Sonder is like the, that's going to refer to my drop tank. And I want all 3 of these on because I do have a drop tank on installed. An MW50 if necessary. I'll leave the MW50 off for now. I'll test that system once I get into the air. Okay, close the canopy. So either left control C, or I can manipulate the canopy using this. Oh, that's neat. Okay. So I'm just going to turn the handle. Okay, canopy closed. Is there any kind of like a locking mechanism for this, or does it just slide all the way forward and you're done? I think it just slides all the way forward and you're done. And this is the canopy emergency release handle, so I need to not hit that by mistake. That's kind of close to the circuit breakers. It's kind of close to the handle for normal open and close, so I need to be sure not to hit that as I go. Okay, oxygen emergency knob. Okay, so got that. Set throttle lever to Anlassen, engine start idle position, right out home. Okay, this is something I didn't map to my my HOTAS earlier. So okay, now I've got it in the Anlassen start stop, or what was that? Engine start idle position. So it's conveniently labeled right there, and it's okay. That's all the way back to idle. So I'm going to move it forward, just so that it's kind of lined up with that. And this is my understanding of how it's supposed to work. I correct the throttle into that position so that the forward section of the throttle lines up with the placard. Okay, and my reasoning behind that being the way to do it, the placard is like exactly the width of the throttle main piece there. So that kind of leads me to believe that that's where you're supposed to put it, just align it with that placard. Just a guess on my part, but I think it's a good guess. Okay, next up, press starter switch for about 15 to 20 seconds to flywheel spin up. I can do that with home, or I can do it down here. This is going to be my starter. Okay, so press 15 to 20 seconds. Okay, and I have the sounds turned down. I tend, if I have the sounds turned way up on my end, which is normally how I like to fly it, that I shout into the microphone. That's not always cool. So I can barely hear the sound effect. Hopefully you can too, but that's about 15 to 20 seconds. And now I need to, release, star sits. Okay, press starter for 15 to 20 seconds, then after spin up, pull the starter switch for engine start. Okay, so now I need to right click it, pull it, and there's engine start. Okay. Too easy. Okay, and then release star set stabilizer. Release star set. Okay. I'll take that to mean just set stabilizer trim to 0 degrees. Switch an indicator on left side panel. So I know I had the switch down here. This is my horizontal stabilizer trim. And trim, incidentally, the only trim that I have control of from the cockpit is the horizontal stabilizer. Essentially just my pitch, nose up and nose down trim. The rest of it is preset. You can see the trim tabs in red out there on my aileron. And if I could reach around and see the rudder, you would see the trim tab out there as well. But those are all preset on the ground. And I want to set my horizontal stabilizer to 0 degrees on this dial. So I will, depress that. Okay, 0 degrees. Do I have any parallax going on there? Okay, let me get it like a better angle. I think it's the same no matter what angle I look at it from. Okay, that's, 0 degrees. I'll take that. And that's one thing that I would need to map to my HOTAS. I'll do that real quick. Let me just hit escape. It just controls, and I'm going to go for flight control, and nose down, nose up. So let me get this real quick. Okay, throttle, and I'm going to put it to a switch here on my HOTAS. It's going to be the path out heading and alt switch that I'm using if you have a Warthog HOTAS. But okay, trim down, it's going to be button 27, trim up. It's going to be button 28. And now when I flip that switch out here in the real world, it works just fine. So I'm going to leave that as is. And I'm going to be making a lot of little adjustments like that as I go. And I'm going to split these up into no more than 15 minutes at a pop. They can get tedious if you're looking at these over the long haul. So I'm going to call this one quits and come back in the next video with a continuation of the mission. So I hope you are enjoying this. If you are, do please consider leaving a like. That helps me out a lot. And I will see you next time.